Hello, Mr. Paul here, back with one last video on 7th chords, because I'd be remiss if I didn't go over some of these things that I didn't touch on in the first two videos. So a couple things here. I was talking about half diminished 7 chords, and you might have noticed I would usually write it like this with that little degree sign and a 7 there. So the X might be confusing, but hypothetically we could have like a C half diminished 7 chord, right? It's very common to see this written this way as well. C minor 7, hey, we know that one. Flat 5. What? Boy, that's kind of a mouthful, and it just kind of looks weird. But here's what they're getting at, and if you play jazz, you'll see this, not that, right? But it's still a half diminished 7 chord. Is they're saying play a C minor 7, okay. Well, C minor 7 is what? C, E flat, G, B flat. Okay, sweet, there's C minor 7. Got it. Flat the 5, okay. Oh, okay, and that makes it half diminished. All right, so I didn't cover that in the last two videos. I felt like I better do that because you're actually probably more likely to see this than that. That is your half diminished chord there, okay? Another thing I want to talk about is when I wrote out a fully diminished chord, so for example, like a C full dim, C, E flat, G flat, I called this note A. Technically, it is B double flat. It's theory stuff, so if you don't care about that, just call it an A. But if you want to be a purist, it is a B double flat, and then we do, in fact, land back on C. So let me explain that real quick. So say I have like a C fully diminished. We've talked before how chords need to be thirds. They're built out of thirds. Typically major thirds and minor thirds, right? But we can't change the notes. Same with scales, we can't change the notes. That's how we end up with double sharps and double flats and stuff. This is the basis. Then I can make them sharp or flat in order to make it work, but I can't change what the actual note is, okay? So if I start here, well, C to E flat, okay? Then E flat to G flat, great. But then when I go G flat and I skip 2 notes, I end up on A. But it's not A, it's B. It's B double flat. And then we get back to C if we do it one more time. So I'm only being a stickler about this because like if you were taking a theory test or something, and if you're really, really theoretically minded, this is technically what it is, all right? So just know that. And then one thing that's a little more practical I want to talk about is how to use these a little bit. So I already got like a voice leading video I put out and stuff. But generally speaking, any 7th chord ever, if you leave out the 5th, it sounds just fine. So what do I mean by this? Say we have like a D minor 7 chord, D, F, A, C. D, F, A, C. Very nice sounding D minor 7. If we get rid of the 5th, root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, get rid of the 5th, get out of here. It sounds just fine. So that's without the A in there. So I'm gonna play a couple with the A in there, a couple without the A. If you listen real close, you'll hear a difference, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. Be honest with yourself. Does it really make a difference? No. So as soon as we introduce the 7th, the 5th kind of goes bye-bye. And it's perfectly fine. So times where I maybe would want to keep the 5th in there is maybe I'm running a pattern. Maybe something like that. But otherwise, if I'm running it in the left hand and I'm doing jazz, I'll do this open voicing. I'll leave that A out of there. Right? And then I'll do some sort of voice leading that way. So clarification with that, every single one. So dominant chords, that's super common as well. And I think that's really it as far as 7th chords are concerned. Eventually we'll get into bigger extensions, which would be your 9ths, 11ths, 13ths. And then once you get to 15, you're at a 2-octave range there. So if I'm already losing you, don't worry, I'll make some more videos about that. But if we're just thinking scale degrees, root, say C's my root note, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13, 14, 15, right? And then you can kind of think, whoa, technically isn't this like the 4th an octave up? Yes, it is. So your 11th and your 4th are like technically the same thing, but when we're voicing chords and stuff, it kind of helps to think in those terms. That's the 11th, right? Even though it could technically be the 4th an octave up. So I'm already rambling on too long, but hopefully that patches up a couple little things you might see about 7th chords moving forward.